For more than a decade now, one of the biggest questions in tech, maybe the biggest, has been who is Satoshi Nakamoto? I mean, the person creates Bitcoin, releases this groundbreaking white paper, and then, poof, gone. But what if the key, the actual answer to their identity, was right there from the beginning, hiding in plain sight? All right, let's get into it.
Yeah, this is the question, isn't it? The architect of a, multi-trillion-dollar asset class just vanishes. The only major thing they left behind? The Bitcoin white paper. And believe me, people have picked this thing apart. Cryptographers, economists, you name it. But a new analysis is floating a pretty wild theory. What if we've all been reading it completely wrong?
So here are the first words of the abstract. A purely peer-to-peer version of electronic cash. It's clean, it's precise, and it absolutely changed the world. This document, this is our ground zero. It's the only direct communication we really have from Satoshi. And for years, everyone's just treated it as a technical blueprint, nothing more.
But what if it's not just a blueprint? The source material we're digging into today makes a fascinating claim, that the white paper is also a kind of puzzle box, a hidden message, tucked away using a really old-school art of secret communication. So to even begin to unpack this, we first have to get our heads around the method.
Okay, so this is a super important distinction to make. We all know Bitcoin uses cryptography, right? That's the crypto in cryptocurrency. You're basically scrambling a message so nobody can read it. But steganography, that's a whole different ballgame. The goal here isn't just to hide the content of a message, it's to hide the existence of the message itself.
Right. So the secret message gets hidden inside what they call a cover text, in this case, an academic paper. So a casual reader, you or me, we'd just see the paper, we'd read it, think about Bitcoin, and move on. But if you know exactly where to look, you can pull out a second, totally secret message. The whole point is to be invisible to like 99.9% of people.
So the obvious question is, how on earth do you find a message that's designed to be invisible? Well, the author of this analysis had a clever idea. They started hunting for tiny, really unusual mistakes in the white paper. Errors that are just small enough that you could write them off as a typo, but weird enough to maybe be a signal.
And boom! This is the first major clue they supposedly found. On page 4, Satoshi cites 3 references. But look at the order: 7, 2, 5. Now, if you've ever written an academic paper, you know this is a huge no-no. It's a glaring formatting error. You're always supposed to list them in numerical order: 2, 5, 7. This is like academic writing 101. So the question is, why do it this way? Was it just a simple mistake or something more?
Okay, so here are the authors for those 3 references. The analysis we're looking at says, nope, not a mistake. It argues that this specific sequence, 7, 2, 5, is deliberate. It's a key, an instruction on how to read something else in the paper. This is where the rabbit hole starts to get deep. And it gets even deeper. It's not just the reference order that's weird. Look at how the author names are formatted. Initial, last name. Again, that's unconventional. The standard is last name, initial. So the theory here is that these 2 errors aren't errors at all. They're a set of rules working together, pointing the decoder to specific letters inside those authors' names.
So, when the researcher follows these alleged rules, using the key 7, 2, 5, and that weird name formatting, this is what they say pops out. 3 initials, C, S, W. But hang on, because the paper claims this is just the beginning. This is just the warm-up act.
Yeah, according to this theory, those initials are just a checksum. Think of it like in computing. It's a little piece of data you use to check that a much bigger piece of data came through correctly. It's like checking your answer in the back of a math textbook. The real puzzle, the main event, is supposedly hidden in one of the paper's most famous sections.
And here it is, Section 5, the 6 steps for how the Bitcoin network actually runs. You've probably seen this list before. Well, this analysis claims it's not just a technical description. Nope. This list is the cover text for the main event. The answer, supposedly, is hidden right inside these 6 steps.
All right, so how in the world do you pull a secret message out of that list? This is where the theory gets, well, really intricate. The paper claims that other tiny errors from all over the white paper give you the decoding rules. For instance, there's a missing hyphen in the word non-reversible. The analysis interprets that as a signal to read the list backwards, from step 6 to 1. Then there's the phrase as long as. That's supposedly an instruction to just delete all of those specific letters from the text, treating them as noise. It's a really complex multi-step puzzle that hinges on you connecting all these super subtle clues. Okay, let's recap. We have the initials CSW from that first little puzzle, the checksum. We have the main puzzle, which is that 6-step list, and we have a set of pretty wild decoding rules. So what happens when you put it all together? What's the final answer?
The decoded initials, CSW, they match up with a very, very well-known figure in the Bitcoin world, Craig Stephen Wright. And this is where we need to add some really important context.
Now, if you've been following this space for any amount of time, you know the name. Craig Wright is an Australian computer scientist who, since 2016, has been publicly and in court claiming that he is Satoshi Nakamoto. And to put it mildly, these claims are highly controversial. They've been the center of some really intense debates and massive legal battles. Okay, so with that context in mind, let's circle back to what this analysis is claiming. We've walked through the clues, the alleged rules, the proposed results. Now we got to step back and ask the million-dollar, or I guess the multi-trillion-dollar question.
Is this really it? Is this the magic bullet, as the source paper actually calls it, that finally puts the mystery of Satoshi's identity to bed? Or is it something else entirely? Could this just be an incredibly elaborate, mind-bending coincidence?
And this is really the heart of the debate, isn't it? On one hand, you have what seems to be a long, interconnected chain of very specific, very odd formatting quirks that all lead to one single result, a result that just so happens to match a known claimant. But on the other hand, the whole thing relies on interpreting these really ambiguous signals as concrete instructions. So what is it? A cleverly hidden message, or just a classic case of confirmation bias, seeing the patterns you want to see? So what are we left with? Well, in the end, this analysis argues that Satoshi's genius wasn't just in designing a revolutionary new form of money, but in weaving their own identity into its founding document, like a digital watermark. Now, whether you buy it, whether you see it as the final proof, or just a fascinating coincidence, it definitely forces you to look at this foundational text in a totally new way. It leaves us wondering, is the Bitcoin white paper just a blueprint for a financial revolution, or is it a puzzle box that we've only just begun to open?